take a community poll. Are we restarting the podcast?
Restart podcast. Oh, God. No community polls. Go back. Play the music. From the top, boys. From the top.
No, it's fine.
Okay, that'll be... that'll be the new intro. Oh. Welcome back, everyone, to the Fight Against Boredom Starborne Players podcast. We're your hosts.
I'm Feca.
I'm Albendinger.
And I'm Branxbro.
Now let's get this week's Fight Against Boredom started. Take 2. This is the final day of the Space Flu tournament server, and boy, was it a long one. Today, we went and grabbed some representatives from the other coalitions to have a rundown of how the server went. From the Mighty Hegemony, we have the leader of EGO Purple here, and from Galactic Authority, we have the leader of Purple and Nebojsa, which I think I still got wrong. Sorry. So we will go one at a time, tell the future viewers who you are, something about yourself and your alliances. Purple, we'll start with you, and then we'll do Nebojsa.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm very much having me around here. Yep, it's go with EJO and Ego, and it's called Eternal Galactic Oligarchy. But yeah, we had plenty of different names as well. I'm just one of the current leaders. Also, my colleague is not here, unfortunately, called Tenko. But we're doing this, we're leading this team together. I don't want to take this too long because Nebojsa have to do something as well. But first things first, I'm here to congratulate to the winning team. We had no chance at all. So big cheers, guys. You did an amazing war against, and that was not boring at all. It was really, really actionful.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. It didn't come without its loss of sleep.
How exactly did you actually get into the whole hegemony group or find? I'm assuming more or less finding Biggles, or is that kind of how it went? Or
I just PM gambler first, and somehow in the same time, or it was Tenko, and I PM Biggles, and somehow we landed in the same Discord channel, and we started to talk. And the fun fact is, nobody actually believed we will be the 4th team of Hegemony. Like it was so fun. Even you, Feca, just PM me do you play with these guys? And it was I acted like an idiot. I don't know what to do.
Purple did get me a little bit on that, so that was interesting. Well, you guys spawned in the same sector as Blood Reapers, and we'll probably get into that a little bit here in a bit about philosophies of why you guys may have done that. But I thought for sure you guys were against them, and I was like, man, Ego, they spawned in the same sector as Hegemony. These guys are done for. We're gonna talk them into fighting them, and so it was cool. But
distraction.
So, Neb, if you want to give us kind of a rundown of you guys are a pretty prominent known alliance, but for people that don't know, what are you guys all about, and your take on the tournament server?
Zorka was before previously exclusively Russian alliance that turned international, so we are basically, sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, just tell us anything about your alliance. Really, this is kind of the intro. I know we went a little bit further with with Purples, but just anything about your alliance that you want people to know, and kind of how you guys came to the tournament server, and any kind of goals or how you started with it.
Our goal was to win, of course. What else can I say?
So how'd you go about that with, I know you allied up early on with Orion Pirates, who actually spawned in the same sector as Kahala themselves. So, or I guess KYS, but.
That was kind of a mistake. They were supposed to know the correct location, but their leader didn't tell them until the last moment. So at that time, he wasn't there, and they just spawned into Orion. They were supposed to spawn in Gemini with us.
Right. Yeah. Well, they were the Orion Pirates, so we were wondering what happened with that. With
Orion.
Right. That's cool. And, yeah, and then so anything about Zorka as well that you wanted to say?
Well, I don't know much about Zorka. I mean, I know that it's a Slavic female name, and that's all about it. I mean, I was not the original creator of Zorka.
Okay.
I just happened to become leader. I mean, on what is the name of that server? A9S2 server, and from now I'm leading that alliance.
Right.
So you inherited it basically.
Basically, yeah.
Very cool.
Hey Neb, it's Zorka is a female name. I never known that. Wow, we always learn something new.
It is the name of the star also.
Very cool.
Whoa, yeah, first point that.
So what was?
I don't know what original creators intended to, what I'm talking about. I know what they were thinking about when they created the alliance and named it Zorka.
Right. Yeah, so that was actually two things that happened at the very beginning of the server. That the reason I was mentioning Purple so early on was the fact that Hegemony decided to double spawn in Serpents. They spawned both Blood Reavers and Ego in Serpents. And then Orion Pirates spawned in Orion with KYS. So to us, it seemed like, a big mess. And I thought for sure, Orion Pirates and Ego had no part in either of your guys' plans. Finding out later that both were working with the coalition, certainly shocking to us. But would you mind going through what you thought maybe the benefits of double spawning both Blood Reavers and Ego into Serpents was, or maybe anything you guys maybe knew about us that we might be doing, any kind of that information?
Yeah, we was totally scared about beat it so fast in the very beginning of the server, but we had no clue about the new rules of missile batteries, what is actually neglected in the early war. We actually underestimated ourselves. And the one thing is good with double spam is the amount of missions you can solve. But the rest is a nightmare. Trust me, you'll never ever want to do this again. We avoided most of the friendly fires, but claim problems was all the time.
Yeah, we were having claim problems in our own sector with just one alliance. We were sitting there looking at Serpents, and you guys were stacked. I was like, oh man, I don't know if there's a free hex in there. That was quite interesting. Short. With Neb, how did the transition of Orion Pirates go? From Orion, you had them go to Hydra, I believe, right?
Yes, that was the deal.
Right.
I mean, they could migrate out or they would be killed, obviously.
Okay. Right. Yeah, because Biggles is taking, I think he took one of the capitals of one of the Orion Pirates guys. So we got kind of excited, oh man, maybe they might fight each other, instead of turning on us like we always expected, right? That's the natural. I think we came out to a pretty early lead, having done so well on the server 1 as well. We knew we had a little bit of a target on our backs, but we were definitely glad to see both of those things happen from our end.
How did the transition go? Was it a setback for Orion Pirates to have to migrate early on, or did it not impact them as much? Can you say something about that?
It was a setback. I mean, they had to move entire alliance from Orion to Hydra. So yeah, I guess it was a setback.
Actually, it's not supposed to be a setback. Our main plan with Ego was to actually rush to Virgo really, really fast. And somehow we managed to reach Virgo a little bit earlier, they started to migrate to Gemini. So it's all about the plan. And this is the most problematic part of the double spawn. When you actually trying to find a good spot while you have to move to another sector. So it's really hard. But they did something good because somehow they managed to get Hydra as well. Do we have anything around here from the Orion Pirates? No.
Neb is more or less the representative there, right?
Yeah, nobody's here.
Yeah. That was an interesting one.
They were
you
not
guys
happy about.
What?
They were not happy about leaving Orion. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's in their name.
Yes, we never discussed it afterwards.
Yeah, it's as my conversation with Biggles, I was like, man, how are you gonna spawn in Orion with Orion Pirates playing the game, like knowing they're gonna go in? It was the only alliance in my head that we were like, all right, when we're doing our early planning, as long as we don't spawn an Orion Pirate in Orion, we're not guaranteed to spawn on somebody. That's I got a little bit enjoyed.
We wanted to join Cassiopeia, but we were loyal to the Lord, the greatest god, LordBiggles, and jumped the serpents.
Right. Yeah, and so when you guys went to Serpents, obviously your only way out, your allies were in both Orion and Pegasus on both the other ones. So you guys you had 2 full alliances that could only go to Virgo. And so something we capitalized on pretty heavily was the fact that, like you said, you guys went to Virgo pretty much right off the bat. And to our knowledge, you didn't really talk to any of the guys that were in Virgo because there's a bunch of noobs in Virgo, like new players, And so an angle we took, and I think we really ran with, we gathered all the locals and we made Event Horizon, and we merged all of these different alliances together, and we were like trying to arm the natives, like fight for Virgo, fight for your homeland, and try to stall these 2 mega alliances coming in to attack these guys.
I can say that was the most fun part of this server.
Political play.
Yeah, and Admiral and I worked on that a lot together. That was one of our big ones that we knew we had to do that early. We knew you guys literally had one way to go, right? You guys are completely funneled, and we're like, man, if we could just throw a big rock here, and mad props to those guys in Event Horizon. They're definitely same thing with SN2. We got really lucky with knowing basically we're going into a game that's 4v8. Realistically, the 2 coalitions that are second and third aren't going to team up and fight each other, right? They're going to team up and fight us. So being able to utilize these other alliances that were just absolute class acts and really in it to learn. These guys were learning like crazy. That's kind of why I went to make my first little tutorial video on how to do an attack, because they were doing stuff like, you got all of Ego and Blood Reavers completely pouring into Virgo, and these guys are like, I got 80 gunships and I'm ready to take them out, and I'm like, oh no, let's walk through these steps and let's learn how to do this and put up your missile batteries and cluster, and it was actually really fun, teaching all these guys how to play the game versus for you guys, I mean, absolutely grade A alliance. You guys are absolutely mobilized, so that was a cool experience for us for sure.
Yeah, that was really the most fun part of the server. We had the Jingo Bombs operation.
Jingle Bombs?
Jingle Bombs. We found a player playing in Singularity called Santa Claus, and it was we just feel an urgent need to bomb that guy out.
Oh man.
And yeah, maybe it was a little bad karma after this, because when we finished his cluster, things went bad for Ego, and slowly we had to retreat from our Virgo positions. Yeah, this quiet, sleepless nights and all.
Yeah, sure. Over there on your side of the server, Neb. What would you say is one of the more exciting or one of the best battles you guys are having? I think you guys were fighting DM a lot, right?
Well, it was not like that. I mean, it was pretty boring in Libra, I must say that. We were all sitting in big clusters, doing nothing, basically, for the most part of the game.
To be fair, though, Libra was 2 sectors away from you guys. So you guys also kind of had your own migration as well, right?
Yeah, we had to rush there in order to prevent BBC or hegemony to, win the war. Our mission, I can speak openly now, I was initially thinking to reach Libra and maintain status quo between BBC and hegemony. But that obviously failed. Because geography favored Galactic Authority. I mean, we are the weakest of the 3 coalitions. but I honestly thought we can win the game.
Oh, we were very much worried about you guys winning the game.
And if we stick to the plan and if everybody continued to play, I mean, we were down to 60 players out of 100.
Well,
Yeah.
it really does come down. So with regards to Valhalla and Virgo, it really came down to choosing to see you guys as invaders and siding with us. If they had taken your side, I mean, the battleground would have been probably in our sector, Vulpecula. I mean, the entire game would have been different. really did prove pivotal in the battle for Virgo.
Admiral, for sure. Like you did an amazing job to convince these people to join your side. Like that's actually what I'm really, really missed from the last 3 or 4 weeks from this game, the politics part. Like to try convince people, yeah, we are the good guys, you're supposed to play with us. And yeah, you did well. They started to fight.
You didn't make it hard. I mean, you guys started settling your stations in their sector before you spoke to the locals. That was your biggest mistake right there.
Yeah, well, they didn't have much of a choice, right? They have to attack there, right?
I know, but it's one thing to, hey, we come in peace, let's take it to the enemy, but we kind of have to go in this direction. But it's another to just place your stations without talking. Like, you should have foreseen those consequences and just reached out ahead of time, like day 1 or day 2 even, you know.
Actually, Pat, Commissar Pat, was just jumped to Virgo for I don't know what reason.
He spawned in Virgo, right?
Yeah, and so the main idea was, we're helping this guy out because he was like attacked and assaulted like many times, and yep, I believe it was more about the big stick politics, like to join the bigger team. And this is a natural phenomenon in Starborne. Smaller teams always choose the bigger one.
Yeah, we weren't made aware that it was even a choice though, because we were talking to them like, no, they haven't even talked to us. Like they're just all of a sudden next to my station. So that's where we really ran with it. We're like, oh man, yeah, they're horrible invaders, you know, like they didn't even want to talk to you. They're not even worried about it, you know. And yeah, we definitely ran with that ideology.
Oh yeah, we definitely did. You know, and while we did win the political play in Virgo, we lost to Cassio.
Yeah, that was a big hit on us, I think, as well. And that one has more to do. That was an alliance that joined Hegemony, but it really affected our wars over fighting Galactic Authority again, right? Because we're having, ideally, the general strategy for us was we have to split up into 2s. Like it's us, it's Gravity and Singularity. We're fighting on the Hegemony front. And you're going to have DM and SM, Dark Matter and Supermassive, fighting on the GA side, right? And we're going to have to 2v4 each of them. So, and if we hold our line, we knew Hegemony was in a really bad spot, just wedged right in between both, BBC and GA. But GA had so much open territory to run. I think Neb just kind of hit on a little bit. If you could take and hold Libra, right, that's a huge geography move, because we have a really hard time getting through there to go. You had so much land over there. So we were definitely worried about that. Then losing Cassiopeia, Cassiopeia to Hegemony, that helped out GA a lot too, because now we have to deal with this other hurdle before we can go and backdoor you guys, like we were trying to hope for. But I think we got in a lot through Aquilius and whatnot. But that was definitely another hurdle we had to go through.
Right. When you set the front line and figure out, like, you control the territory and turtle down, and you dictate the front lines. There were stations that were placed super aggressively, but they did not dictate the front lines at all. I'm very surprised that GA didn't capitalize on our split coalition in order to really prioritize GTs. And that's one of the things in our coalition. We really prioritize, like, hey, GT. Okay, which GTs are we taking today? And my general go-to is take the easy GTs, the ones easily won, and just keep your front line defended. You know, why battle for a week over one GT with all these FOBs jumping everywhere when, you know, you could just conquer an NPC in the backwaters? And GA really had the opportunity to expand in a lot of different directions where we had no presence, you know?
Yeah, what's your take on that, Neb? Do you have any comments on that? Things you think
As I said, the geography favored us. I mean, that's the reason we are in the second place right now, because we would probably end up third at best.
What are your thoughts on?
My initial goal was to take Libra and to control everything from there, but holidays and then Hedgehog leaving the game just wrecked our activity. We were down at 12 people, I believe.
Well,
Ryan Pirates had 5 people. Like, it was just...
Yeah, player retention was definitely a problem. The server with all the bugs. But, like, what were some of the things you did to keep the people that stayed around? How did you keep them around? Is that, like, Purple, did you have to do a lot of that? Like,
yeah, I have a personal conversation with everybody in the team. Like, Admiral, you mentioned in the last podcast, like, people actually not following announcements. They're just following orders if you talk to them directly. Ego suffered, and Ego and Blue Lever merge teams suffered a lot from inactivity. And in the end, we started to figure out like really, really crazy ideas. Like space flu somehow affected our FABs, so we were unable to jump to the Cassiopeia Dyson. Because, it's more about the last question as well. We wanted to open a real front in a Cassiopeia part, but it was all relayed on the Dyson jump, but actually it doesn't really work. So we did 9 FOB jumps from Serpents to Cassiopeia because it was some kind of goal for our players. Like, we always have to find something to keep players doing something, because if you see, we lost another station, it will be really, really boring and bad quite fast.
Yeah. You guys having that only one way to get to, and I think player retention is honestly one of the biggest battles. You know, it really is a war of attrition. How can I make sure everyone still has a goal? You know what I mean? As soon as you don't have a goal, and especially from your guys' perspective of, you know, not being in first, you know what I mean? How do you make sure your players still think it's a feasible win, right? And especially from the hedge boning point of view, I was curious what you guys would be doing, and maybe even Biggles could jump in on this. How do you tell your guys, you know, I know there's nowhere for us to expand. I know we're not necessarily winning the wars. You guys were holding very, very, very well. But even if you just had held those, you guys still only own maybe 3.5 sectors, right? How do you keep your guys motivated in those situations?
Well, I can comment a bit on that. Before the server even started, we had a pact with GA, and we had all of the leaders go into a voice chat. The problem that Orion Pirates had at the start was that their members ignored the leader, and the leader kind of went inactive. The same with Flat Universe and Fox. A lot of the people we made our agreements with kind of went poof at the start of the server. So there was a lot of miscommunication for spawns, and that was the problem with Orion Pirates, because we drew up a plan beforehand. We didn't know where you guys were spawning. The double spawn we had was due to the possibility of you just jumping on us and getting it over with, because that was probably the most feasible way for you to kill us out of the way and then move on to the next target. We didn't think if in a realistic 8v4, you guys would be able to do anything, really. And the inactivity of the server really screwed over most of our plans of just attritioning your coalition out of the game.
Right.
But the original plan with the spawn was that we had the entire top half covered. So if you spawned in the other half, we could all move towards you anyway. So we kind of had it so we knew exactly where we were going to go and had it a good plan of expansion and attack. Now, when you spawned, when you did, we were originally going to plan to just blitz Virgo, and then we were going to just start blitzing your sectors with JTAC and his Blitzkrieg tactics.
We're quite familiar. Yeah.
In my opinion, it probably would have went really good if a lot of our people didn't leave at the start. We might not have won, and I can't say that we would have definitely won. But if everything went as planned, which they don't always do, it would have been definitely a better strategy than it went.
Right.
But,
For sure.
So what are some of the tricks you use to actually keep those people that did stay at the beginning to keep fighting even like 4 weeks into the game?
Well, the problem we had was that my alliance was down to about 12 people or less, and the same with our alliances. So I would DM a lot of people and said, hey, we might not get first place, but we can do this, and this to get ahead. And one of the best things for that argument was that we could still get third or second. And the rewards for that were enough to convince a lot of people. But a lot of people did need daily prompting to actually log in because they'd lost all motivation of playing the game. Especially the people hit really hard with the login bugs, even with, and props to Omni for doing it, but even with all the assisting starts, it was just so bad for a lot of my guys. And I still had one person who still couldn't log in even to today. And that issue wasn't fixed. But there were a bunch of problems at the start, and a lot of our guys had had issues. But we did do our best to keep people motivated. Props to Gambler. He kept his alliance motivated daily, and so did Purple and Tanker and Ben. Kept everyone active and did our best. But at the end of the day, we got outnumbered and we just fought our hardest, and you guys won. So again, props to you guys.
Yeah, man. I do have another question about alliances. This one's to Neb. Was Astral Rage is one alliance I hadn't really heard of prior to this game. Were they on the plan originally, or did they kind of spawn up?
From what I remember, Astral Rage was Gambler arranged for Jacob's team of Astral to join the Galactic Authority. That was kind of a way of getting them their fourth alliance to be at full strength, if I remember correctly.
I don't know. We talked before they joined it. They joined it with us.
This is before the server?
Yes, and I was pretty impressed by them. They're basically a bunch of newbies playing, together.
Yeah, they were the ones
on server before this.
Wow. What server was that, by the way?
I don't know. I never asked them. It was S10 or S11, one of those. I'm not sure.
We did plan out a lot of stuff, like with Nebojsa, Fox, Jacob. We had a bunch of planning before the server, and we were pretty confident going into it. But unfortunately, a lot of things just happened. Sinbad left because of all the bugs. He just didn't want to deal with it. And Blood Reavers fell apart, which obviously caused their merger. And I feel like if Blood Reavers stayed at full strength, it would have been such a fun game because they are a mean machine.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, you guys had us playing like Admiral saying here in chat. You guys had us playing at our A game, even with all this, all these things you're saying happened to. We were still, sweating and still had to play our hardest. So absolutely props to keeping that alive, keeping that dream alive, and being able to retain what players you could, and that is really any leaders out there that are trying to start up. That unfortunately is, a big part of the game, keeping morale up,
Yeah, at no point did it feel like it was ever going to be anything like a sweep, which it always felt like we were just climbing.
Yeah, it was like this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. Like, oh man, because we were having people messaging us, even early on, like in kind of the earlier one of our big wars in Gravity was the Phoenix to Pegasus one, and we had one of the players from Pegasus message pretty early on, and it's like, man, like you guys have won. Why are you pushing so hard? Blah, blah. And they're like, man, none of our topics at all. This is week 4. We don't think at all this is one. You know what I mean? First of all, we've played versus Gambler and Jotok. They're vicious players that are, and not in a bad, like in a great way, right? And it's like, no, like if we even let up the smallest amount, we're done for, right? So that's just stuff we were doing constantly. So even though I know you guys got hit, obviously everybody got hit, but way to keep it up. That's a big thing I think about Alliance is continuing, right, and trying to be a prominent alliance over multiple servers is trying to keep them together, right, and keep that morale going.
Now, what did you do a lot on the Galactic Authority side to keep your players engaged and logging on and having a goal? Was that something you were doing a lot?
Well, I don't know what to say. I mean, people that left Zorka left suddenly, and it was they have a meeting. I'm talking about Russian community. They had a meeting with Hedgehog, and they just decided to leave. There was nothing I can do about that. And after that, it was a snowball effect. I mean, I believe 3 of our key players left the game: Vitang, Vulkan, and Zarkaner. They just left without saying anything.
Oh man,
That's sad.
I think they didn't. I don't think they even put their fleets into the AS. Just
wow.
I have one guy that joined us 1 hour for lockdown, and he went inactive. Of course.
Oh yeah,
That's why I wanted devs to allow us to kick players after the lockdown. He just joined and left the game. I couldn't contact him anymore. He turned off Discord. I don't know what happened, but that was it from him.
Yeah, with the lockdown mechanic being in the game, that's sadly something that can happen, and I think has happened to several alliances in the past. I think that's just something we sadly have to deal with for now.
Right. You go.
So this can happen in every server. Like I'm the new guy around here. I only have 4 finished servers, but it was so many players left this server without telling a word. Like I lost 5 players. They just disappeared from the Discord and they never came back. So it's a quite important and huge message for us, for the developers to avoid this in the future. And to see the positive side of this, really want to thank all the Ego and Beer players that actually stay for the very last day, even in a really bad situation. So somebody asked about player retention. Maybe all teams are actually found the people what people will play with, because it's a game, but you want to play this game with people who actually trust and will know, it won't disappear in any moment.
Right.
It's community building, right? That's I think I can't speak especially for Gravity here. One of the strengths we have is the community we've built very early in the server. I think day 2 or day 3, we had a meeting with most of our guys. It was about just the state of the server back then, right? Buggy, laggy, everything. And we told each other that we made a commitment going into this as we prepared for a tournament, and we still want to do it because we don't want to let each other down, right? So I think the strength is, and the reason why our retention is so good is because we are a community that loves playing with each other. And if that's something that over a couple of servers you can manage to build, I think that in itself helps with the retention a lot.
Oh yeah, if you could survive through this server, you have players that will survive through any predicament period, and that's something we think. Sean.
Yeah, you all had some players that fought until the very end, and hats off to that. I've talked to some players on your side that I respect a lot now, that were not just good fighters, but also respectable players. I like it. It was a good server, everything considered.
And then we also have someone else that wants to speak up on the Jacob part. We actually have Gambler here, and he wants to give a few pieces about that. That was mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I just feel like, a lot of us, or some of us, have been planning for 2 months before the server even had dropped. And some people had no problems getting their 25 together. And so, but the problem is that left potentially even on the coalition side, you only need 4 teams. But with politics and how the 2 months leading up to this to this server kind of played out, teams like you had played with before, it was a really good strategy to kind of spawn into S10, S11, and S12 and try to stop people from playing. Because you're building these relationships, building up to a tournament server, and then you're playing with these guys. So there's always the stigma of why are you playing with these guys? Does that mean that you're working with them? But then it's also teams approaching and hey, we want to like have an impact on the tournament server. Do you have a slot for us? And that's kind of what happened with the Jacob thing or the Astro H thing is like, I knew that our team was full, but working like, you know, with Nebojsa kind of going off and then Saint coming back being like, hey, well, you know, we are trying to attempt to put a team together like 2 or 3 weeks before. Whereas, you know, I'd been working for 2 months trying to try to put some kind of, you know, myself and Biggles trying to put something together that that worked for us and then helped them. Because like at the end of the day, you don't want to try to retract and make a server not be fun. Why would I tell, you know, Jacob and his team, you know, not to approach Saint, because Saint needed a couple of slots for in their coalition. So it just made sense. You don't want to try to retract from anybody. This is a community, so it's just like you're trying to help each other out. Because I mean, my thing is like I had no problem finding 25. I think at one point I had like 35 guys, and then it's just shuffling, and then it's just shuffling people around. I mean, there's a trust factor a little bit, but whenever you really start talking to people and you start brushing elbows with them for 3, 4, 5, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of small conversations with people, that's kind of how you build trust up. And that's what I kind of did for 2 months. I mean, a lot of this stuff, or I would say maybe only a handful of people really kind of, you know, especially, you know, you talk about leadership and stuff, you know, it put a lot of effort into trying to make this thing work. And then back on Biggles' point is, the delivery really just kind of killed it, because this is the last point I'm going to make. I'm not trying to take over your conversation.
No problem, this is good stuff.
Is you can make the case for burnout. You know, my entire build up leading up to the server is I never got a break. And maybe that had a little bit, you know, and then kind of how the delivery of the server occurred, it really kind of stifled some of my guys. They were so, you know, amped up and ready to go, and then it didn't deliver, and then that's what pushed them over the other side of the fence. Was just like, well, dude, I'm so burned out. The server didn't deliver, and I lost like 4 guys. I mean, from just my team. I mean, you can only spawn in with 25. Even though I had 35 guys and I moved them to other teams, I still only had 25 guys. So you know, right off the bat, you're down to 8, you know, 20 or 19 guys. You're eventually going to get outscaled.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that, man.
The server start is, I think, the biggest factor in how the teams develops, or like why things went the way they did. To be honest, like
it's
honestly, I sympathize with everybody. I truly do. Right at the start, like I'm telling you, if I was Singularity and my entire like the issues that they had with their alliance, man, dude, I would have been hard pressed if I would have just been like, dude, it's not worth it, and I would have not even played. Like, I think it was like there was resilience there. Like, I'm super surprised that their team even stuck with it, because I would have been just like, man, that would have been the tipping point for at least like my guys, because I had been pushing my guys. A lot of the guys that I was trying to play with, we'd been playing since server 5. So to push them into 10, into 11, into 12, into the tournament was really, really tough. And so you can make the case for, as a leader, giving your guys a break. And that's kind of something that I need to learn the hard way. And I think that this gap between this tournament server and the beta, I would encourage everybody just to give yourself a nice break.
Yeah, and we got Admiral back on here. He to say a few words about maybe what he would have done and how he was able to get past that hurdle.
Yeah, sorry, I'm driving right now, but I did want to contribute to that. It was very hard when I was totally amped up for this tournament server day one. I logged in for less than 30 seconds. I had only queued like 2 buildings before I started trying to complete my task by creating Singularity Alliance, and turned out that the bug had to do with my alliance and creating it. So I couldn't log in for 9 hours, and that really put a damper on me. And we didn't even form Singularity for God knows how long after that. But yeah, I was really close to just rage quitting. Honestly, like I was having my reservations from the get-go about playing, and it honest to God, it was some of our members, like people I was very loyal to and who were loyal to me, who just convinced me to stick through it. I'm like, all right, well, I haven't made my decision, but I'm gonna keep logging in and at least managing my stuff. And then it just kind of re-engaged my gears to stick through it. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of on all of us. It wasn't any one person who kept the drive going. It was like everyone trying to keep things together. I almost had nothing to do with it. In fact, I'd say I benefited from it more than anything. Exelizer was the key contributor in convincing me to not just walk away.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I truly honestly feel like. A lot of this has to do with, like, I can tell you, like, I know you guys, like, BBC has a really good communication with each other, and the same thing with us, man. I can tell you, I can attribute, and I want to give credit to Saint, and I want to give credit to Nebojsa, and even Miracle and Biggles and everybody on our side, because there was a couple of meetings that happened that we just really had some really good, solid conversation. We're not talking like a 10-minute meeting. We're talking about like a 2 or 3 hour meeting of just what our needs are. And like one of the big needs early on was, we just need to shuffle guys around, and that's why like Jacob's team, Astral Rage, was almost, it wasn't even like 2 weeks before the server even started. We had them, I had suggested, I wasn't telling anybody to do anything. I was just like, hey, like, why don't you get a hold of Saint? I know that they need at least one more team on their side. And so like these conversations were only products of the communication you had, a couple of weeks before. And so being able to have those meetings is just what really makes this game so like fruitful for leadership.
Yeah, and one thing we push often in Gravity, are these voice meetings. And we have we're almost always on voice, and one of the parts I think I could talk about a lot of this stuff and getting attrition back and stuff. But JackWatts also wanted to come in and say something. A very prominent leader in our alliance as well.
Just a really short history to give a bit of context about the burnout thing, which is something I've seen myself and for all the alliances I've worked with directly or indirectly. When me and Nihilus started playing this game, we ended up leading an alliance by accident, like many of you. And since then, we've ended in Gravity because we didn't want to lead again. So the first time we played with Gravity was on A9S1 because we just wanted to be line members. That's how burnt out we were. And obviously this server, we ended up doing leadership again because it's addictive. What the f***? Point being is that if you don't pace yourself, if you push your players, if you push yourself, you're just going to burn out and not perform. It's just the reality of it. You have to see it like a real-time job. If you work 24/7, you're going to fail, realistically speaking. So I think that's the first thing a leader needs to learn, not just in this game, in general, is to know when to push and when to just let their players chill. In GVT, we used to have, I guess we still kind of have this mantra, like, don't burn out. Like, just chill. If you feel like you're burning out, just take a step back. Someone else is going to pick up the slack. And that's how we managed to pull through in the end with the burnout.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. We are constantly doing burnout checks, and we have plenty of capable people. Someone else can step in, even if it's for a few days. We just really need to clear your mind. And I think we're able to do that pretty effectively. And that goes to show why our attrition, I think, so
one of my favorite moments of the server for me was Nihilus giving me an attrition check I went and donated like 14,000 scouts to the Alliance Station. He was like, bro, are you like quitting or something? Are you okay? I'm like, no. He's like, but you donated all your scouts. I'm like, wasn't all of them. So he's like, oh.
Yeah, so moving on a little bit here, I want to ask the leadership people from all of the alliances and coalitions that what were some of the moments during this server, apart from the start, that you feel were pivotal or important moments that kind of dictated how it played out after that event? If you could start that, Purple.
Oh yeah, we lost several FOBs. And definitely we had many chances where we had definitely we had a better plan, but yeah, we like when we lost our third FOB called Phoenix. I remember it was all about like a really misplaced jump. But we all believed if we not do anything at the time, we will lose like really fast. That was the last act actually before the quick collapse of the hegemonic coalition. Because after that we was like really finished. So yeah, it's pretty hard to find a real part of the game where we actually lost our chance to win this server. But somewhere around when we lost like 2 or 3 FOBs in a row in like 3 days in Virgo, of course.
Well, for me, I mean, it was inability for Zorka to take over Libra and to apply pressure on Phoenix, because I realized that Hegemon is losing the war, and if we don't do anything, they're gonna overrun Winged Hussars. But we didn't have enough active people. That was the main reason. I mean, these holidays applied double penalty on Zorka because half of our members are Orthodox Christians and half are Catholic. So basically, holidays lasted from 2 weeks for us, basically. And
Yeah, that's something that I only
nobody
learned.
saw.
That's something I only learned this server, that Orthodox Christians actually celebrate Christmas a week or two later.
On the 7th, right, of January or something like that.
It's difference in calendars that churches are following.
Right.
I think that's my big takeaway from this server that I learned about. I learned about Orthodox Christians and Christmas there.
And yeah, how do you guys feel? Like somehow it will be better to start a tournament server in November to not avoid the holiday season, but to like if we reach the halfway of the server in December, it's a little bit different. Of course, it's hard. It's impossible to find a proper date for these kind of competitive servers.
I think it doesn't really matter when during the year you have a 2-month server. There's going to be like a period of those 2 months that's going to be a problem for some of the people that are going to participate. But I think that doing it during December was one of the worst times during the year to do it. Yeah, because that's obviously for one, yeah, people probably have a bit more time to spend on the game because they have holidays, which in a lot of countries means more than just a few days. You actually get some time off that you could potentially spend on the game. But on the other hand, that's the time you kind of want to spend with your family and friends, right? So yeah, I wouldn't, if I had any say in the matter, I wouldn't do it during Christmas again.
Yeah, so at least the tournament server, maybe a normal server, you kind of go into accepting that, and probably most of the server would be less active kind of in those times. But when you're labeling a tournament server, and I know it was named Flu server at that point, but we all went in with one expectation, right? And we kind of stuck with it. We decided as a group, like we say in the meeting we had before, where we decided we're just still going to treat it like a tournament server, just keep playing it, and it's just going to be what it is because there's still rewards, right? So dealing with that kind of stuff is pretty important.
I low-key forgot all about the map painters. and I am now like excited all over again for that.
I'm afraid to get my hopes up because I'm sure it's going to be like, all right, here's first place. Here's this little like gray one that pretty much looks like normal. And here's second place, which is golden and has all this other stuff. Like,
you're afraid that first place looks lame and that the other ones are really good.
I'm still rocking it, but it's going to be.
What's kind of cool is like first place gets to pick all of them. Second place can pick like 2, and then third place can pick 1 or something.
Well, that's easy. That's easy to come up with after you've landed in first place, right? That's yeah. So
traditionally, first place gets 1, second place gets 1.
Yeah.
That's how it worked with the pictures, the avatars.
So
go
ahead.
Oh, no,
for me, the pivotal point was, I mean, I remember it very specifically. There were just a few days, and there was one specific day where we all posted our combat report wins, where all across all the alliances we had huge wins, like wiping out all the enemy forces in both coalitions and basically getting to a point where we just eventually destroyed those FABs. Like, I knew that was going to be a huge blow to morale of just the active players. And I was, I had my fingers crossed that would cause enough of a fail cascade among leadership, and that's the truth of it as far as wartime. Morale is an important thing. Taking a heavy loss it's always rough to recover from. And staying on tact and contributing and sharing ships. I mean, hell, we had our fair share of losses too, and I agree. The holidays were very rough, and I would ask never to see a server cover over the holidays again for me. But yeah, I think it was just more of every day coordinating, communicating, giving people goals, and if they're not able to be active in PvP, as like, all right, well, at least can you keep your ship queues going and donate your ships? Like that shouldn't take too much time, and that keeps people engaged enough to at least keep logging in. That bare minimum commitment. Hey, log in. Contribute in even that way can sometimes bring you back. Like when this proverbial shit hits the fan. So yeah.
My reflection on kind of how everything.
Is everyone commented on that one that wants to be? I think that's most representative from each of the big ones.
No, Gambler has a few points he wants to do here.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Here we go. Hi, Gambler. What you got, bud?
Hey, so my last kind of comment on just the server itself probably actually happened before it even started was, so like I've had time to reflect on my guys and kind of how I handled stuff, and it just the server, like I wouldn't even say it was the holidays. It's just like managing your guys in the first place. And so the thing, the promise that I kind of was made was JTech is a very aggressive guy. I think we all know that. Yeah. And so, back on A9S1, I did the diplomacy thing. It didn't work out, and obviously there was bugs on that server. But coming into this server, I'm like, man, like I have this aggressive guy. Let's let him do his thing. But the thing is like within those conversations, you really do need to be able to manage your guys and read through the lines. Some guys, just because they want to play aggressive doesn't necessarily mean that they want to lead. And I was put into a terrible place because, I mean, I wasn't here for like pretty much the first week of the tournament server. I was in a different country and I was playing on a laptop. So it's just like, I knew I wasn't going to be here. I tried to just kind of force JTech, and I was like, hey, you need to lead this thing for a while. And maybe that was the main reason why it didn't work out. And he felt not only was there the burnout thing, and as a leader, you got to kind of have all these variables. It's like, how far can you really push one person, right? How much, you ask them to lead, you ask them to be aggressive, you ask them to do all these things, and then it might just be partially your own fault just because of situational stuff. You know, like we wanted to be the frontline guys, right? We wanted to fight, but there's still a lot. And it's really comes down to just playing this game a lot and understanding that you're gonna lose stations, you're gonna lose ships, and then on top of it, from the leadership point of view, it's seeing, you know, how much can some of the guys really take. And so being able to kind of juggle that stuff is always an interesting sell, just because you learn every server, you learn something new. And it's just like, at the end of the day, some people truly want to lead and some people just want to fight. And so you got to be able, just because somebody wants to fight doesn't necessarily mean that they want to lead. And so that's kind of like something that I learned on this server.
That's interesting.
I like that one a lot. And actually, I feel that a lot, you know, trying to also try my hand at leading, you know, knowing who goes where, you know, trying to pick the pieces. And it's really hard to tell most of the time, you know, especially on an online game where you just have Discord interactions with people. A lot of times people don't even get on voice, right? Just through text, you know, any content, you can apply whatever context you want to what they're saying, you know. So that's definitely, I think that's a very big piece of advice for anyone new that's playing, as well as veteran players.
I think I also have to clear up like how we in Gravity view Chatak, so that people understand it, and especially Chatak. We have immense respect for the guy. We've met him a couple of times now. We see him as a very aggressive fighter, a good tactician. Like, as long as Chatak is in charge of tactics, we've never won tactics in a combat, right? That's something he does really well. I mean, he doesn't win every fight, neither do we. Like, we'll always make mistakes sometime, but we respect him a lot, and we kind of term getting Chataked, because he just goes all in. He takes the losses, but he just smashes. And I hope we see him around again.
Yeah, he's a very respectable player.
All right, enemies, but Chatak is one we're very familiar with.
Respectable player is a good way of putting it.
Unbelievably.
Yeah. So to top things off, we're closing in on the hour here. Just quick fire from everyone. What is a lesson learned for you on this server? Go ahead, Purple.
Well, yeah, the most important lesson, I was still thinking about what Gambler said, but it's kind of saying to learn about the community and your players, or even other players in different teams. Probably this is the most important experience in this server for me, at last.
All right. Nebojsa?
Well, the thing that we learn is to gather the most active people into our alliance and to play to the end. People that will play to the end. I mean, influence is good indicator of activity, but it's not 100% sure about it. I mean,
I understand what you're saying, like the realizing which players you can count on to stick with it through thick and thin.
But it is yes.
Yeah. Somebody said once that influence only goes to show how much you can be bombed and still survive. I think that is a good way.
That's all it is. Yeah. It means nothing else, really. You know, a lot of people get caught up in that. But I think that's one interesting point is, you know, not necessarily taking the guys that are the highest in influence. I think we saw multiple times, you know, the highest influence guy either bail out, or guys in high influence, you know, bailing out of the game halfway through because you burn out really quick. Right. And that's something we hit on constantly. But I think that's always my lesson learned. I'm just constantly trying to learn people. I try to get people in voice as much as I can, obviously, and text as much as I can. I value communication more than anything. And I would always rather have a guy that's going to hop in voice with me once or twice a week, give me a rundown of what he's doing. That may not be the best player, someone that's being completely communicating with me, because that's how a team game works, right? It doesn't matter if you have, you know, all the best players in the game necessarily. For me, I also want to have fun still. So it's like I still want those guys that are going to jump in voice with me. They're going to goof off. They're going to have a good time because it is a game, right? I still want to have fun. But then also having those guys that are going to stick through with you, right? Through the hard time, you know, in this server, that's what we mentioned earlier, in this server, if you've survived to the end of this server, any guy that is in your alliance and is still playing, hold on to that guy with your dear life. You know what I mean? That guy is never leaving, at least the game. You know what I mean? May not be a perfect fit for your alliance, but like try to hold on to those guys because those are undoubtable veterans that have a rock hard ability to stay with.
All right, and Gambler,
That's what I wanted
that you
to say.
learned using less words than Feca just did.
I just like, again, you guys hit on great points, which is at the end of the day where we really are, and it's like you look at how many people maybe ended up playing out and we're still active at the end of the server. We made we made the best of a bad situation, and it's not even the game itself. Like, imagine like a lot of like we're making the best of a game of that's an alpha, which is, imagine we didn't even have to use Discord as our voice comms, right? It was already, built into the game, but like we're doing our best with attempting to play this giant game that is politics, it's spying, it's killing, it's blowing stuff up, right? And you're still like in a leadership position, you're trying to manage all of that stuff. So the things that I would take away is the server was a really good learning curve, that everything's not going to go to plan. And so, you know what? It's not like, I still had 19 guys. We're still going to play. And you're still in the back of your mind being like, hey, like maybe we can get to week 3. Maybe we can get to week 4. Maybe we can get to week 5. And you set those goals. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you can run the numbers and be like, hey, I've only got 19 guys and these guys got 25. Eventually, you're going to get outscaled. But the takeaway is again, hold on to the guys that stuck with it. And hopefully everybody kind of learned a little bit of something about themselves going through this process. Because hopefully, with them taking more time into beta, they're asking for more time because they want something that's going to be stable. It's going to be something that's going to be productive and fun. Like, imagine a launch that's just super, super just smooth and everybody's logged in and the people that want to play for the leaderboards are able to. Because I know a lot of the guys that I lost was just directly went down to leader. They like the leaderboard stuff, man. Who doesn't want to fight for first place? So those are my reflections.
All right. And Biggles actually has one in here too. He said mentioned that his lesson learned is that you need to count new players as a threat rather than disregard. And I think that's a huge one as well. And I think we talked about that a lot in great length in Virgo. New players can do all kinds of things. They're crazy. They add up, numbers add up, and that's just how the game goes. But I like that a lot, Biggles.
And I'll add on my little thing here is delegation. Like if I compare server 1 to this server, so Alpha 9 server 1, I compare it to this server around we implemented Gravitos. I think that was Nihilus's baby of just delegating more, having the officer positions really going into who deals with what aspect of the game. So in server 1, I shared most of the responsibility with No for daily operations, and Feca dealt with more like the Diplo stuff. So we had a lot on our hands. This time around, we got to share the burden a lot more, and it felt a lot better. Yes, there was still a lot of stressy moments, and burnout was still on the horizon, but it was a lot better. So delegating, absolutely something that I can highly recommend to any leader out there.
I totally agree. At one point, that's why we're leading Ego together with Tanko, because if some of us trying to burn out in some way, the other will say, no, we play. And it's some kind of delegation as well. But in our team, he's more the diplomatic kind of guy. So sad in this server it was so last used, because at a certain point this server is turned to be like these 3 teams fighting with each other. Delegation.
We actually had almost half our full line, so I think 12 out of our 25 that actually had officer roles, that actually had full-blown things to do. And that's absolutely, we hit on that a lot earlier with, the reducing burnout. But yeah, if you want to be an officer, we can find jobs, and I think that's one thing, this was mentioned here in chat. Just that's what makes, I think, a good leader shine. And this is just a very broad thing, delegate as much as you can, lose your ego. You don't have to do it all. You can't do it all, and you can't do it all on more than one server. So that's good stuff.
Well, guys, sounds like it's starting to get to a pretty good place to wrap it up. So glad to have everyone that hopped in and gave their input into politics throughout the game. Admiral, Gambler, Purple, JackWatts, LordBiggles, Maui, and Nebojsa. Thank you all for your input, and for all those listening, thanks for being a part of the Space Sleuth server. And mad, crazy, massive props to all those that stuck through it. These stories that would have been possible without you guys. So everyone give yourselves a pat on the back for sticking through and being here. You all deserved it.
Absolutely, guys.
I'm not that flexible.
Thanks, everyone, for...
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for being here. Yeah. To the future for more better Starborne, guys.
Yeah, better podcasts. Hopefully we get our stuff together.
Yeah, thank God we're at least getting other people over here to help make this podcast a little better than just us three. Thanks, everyone, for joining for this podcast and for any of the past. Thanks for joining on the server. Always believe that our enemies are just friends that happen to drop in the wrong sectors. And we're glad that you were all able to come out and hang out with us. Looking forward to seeing everyone in the beta. Don't forget to ping Nihilus. If you have any podcast ideas, PM Feca, Bronx, or I. If you got any pictures or memes for the podcast, send those to Bronx specifically. It's about time that we get back to playing casual. What do you say?
No doubt, man.
Heck yeah. So any last remarks or words before we hop off?
Ping Nihilus.
Ping Nihilus. Branks is going to put together. He said he's going to put some effort into this last podcast. He wants to get a lot of pictures. So any cool pictures you guys have throughout, I just really want to reiterate that.
Yes.
Get those to Branks. I'm sure he'll find some use for him, if not for the podcast. But thanks, everybody. Thanks, enemies. Thanks, allies.
Many thanks. I'll get the little audio rolling up for this. Everyone, keep up that fight against boredom.
Yeah. Thanks to the devs for making the server 2 months instead of 3 months now. If I had to do another month, man.
Right.
Thanks to that, guys. See you. Bye, Craig. See you, Craig.
See you, Craig.